Okay.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. This is Anna. I'm here with my friend, local Laura Gabrysiak, and we're actually going to give you guys a second to get here because there's a buffer period. So we're going to just hang out here for just a second, and then we're going to go ahead and dive right in.
Yay. We need some music, some background music.
All righty. Well, I think we could probably go ahead and jump right in, right?
All right, I can hear you. Yes, perfect.
Can you hear me okay and everything?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? This is the rain in Miami. That's what happens.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our latest DSS break. I'm live here every Thursday to bring you the latest news and great interviews. I'm Anna, founder and CEO at Formulated By, home of Data Science Salon, and I'm streaming right live here from our HQ in the heart of Miami in the Design District. And today my very special guest is Laura, and she's a data science leader at Visa, and she's doing some amazing work there. And she's also an advocate for women in data science, and she's a huge person who's all about community, data science community locally. And she started the Our Ladies Miami here, which is now currently up to 700 people, which is really, really amazing. So I'm really excited to have you. And Laura's also here in Miami. You know, we actually just had drinks a couple weeks ago. So that was a lot of fun. So I thought that I invite Laura to join us. And she's also going to be speaking at our next event at BB Transform World. And you're going to be covering the enterprise data science and enterprise track. So I'm really excited to have you there as well.
And to be here.
Yay. So why don't we go ahead and dive right in, and maybe you could tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into this field.
Absolutely, Anna. Well, thank you for having me here. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Miami. My name is Laura Gabrysiak. I'm a data scientist at Visa Consulting and Analytics. It's part of Visa. It's a very long story short, so I hope you have a little bit of time. My whole experience and journey into what they call today data science was a very interesting and long one. A couple years ago, we didn't have that keyword of data science yet. So my background is in computer science. I was born and I grew up in Cuba. And after high school, I was in a magnet school in science. I decided to go to Germany because I could. And once I got there, I was looking into what to study. There was obviously, computer science or any engineering career. But funny enough, I had some issues with my papers from Cuba. And I had to find a program that had a very specific definition, right? So back then, I got in contact with the University of Potsdam, which is near Berlin in East Germany, as you know. And they had, back then it was very small niche program called computational linguistics. And it was the first year they still had it with the Faculty of Linguistics and computer science. And it's theoretical mathematics and linguistics, but they had for some reason the Bachelor of Arts. So I enrolled there, it was pure entropy, pure, what happens in life. And I just got lucky because once I started studying it, seeing it the more conceptual paradigm of computer science and linguistics, I fell in love. And I ended up specializing in text mining. Now we would do computational linguistics is what we call, the field is called computational linguistics, is what we call NLP. And it has a very broad reach. It goes from what we know now as Siri, which is speech synthesis, speech recognition, translation, text mining, which is more like extracting data and making more sense out of it. And I ended up specializing in that field. Towards the end of my studies, I started working at the German Institute for Artificial Intelligence in Berlin. And back then it was very big. It was when the semantic web started really catching up. I was working on ontologies. I was seeing what other teams were doing. And it was very, very inspiring how far we could go and how much you could do. And I ended up going one day to the hospital, and this doctor was taking notes by hand. And as a computational linguistics, I was asking him, like, why don't you have like a dictation program? Something that nowadays, especially with Apple and all the technology that we have, is more natural to our behavior. Even though we're struggling, back then it was even a greater reach. So that kind of set up the mindset that it's not enough to go into technology and develop, but really to look into the human side and the adoption of a product, more the product side. Back then, also in Potsdam, they opened what it was the second chapter of the design thinking school, which is user-centric design. The first one is in Stanford, and I decided to take it, to try it out. Just because of that, because I thought that it would be interesting to see how it would affect my perspective on technology. And it ended up changing completely, because in statistics, machine learning, data science overall nowadays, we have the quantitative approach of solving problems. Right. We collect data, we look for patterns, and then we solve it. There is another side, which I became acquainted through this path and delving into design, which is a qualitative part of solving a problem. And that's why you hear also nowadays is taking a little more of a boom on user stories, personas. When you're developing a product in technology, and I'm speaking about 10 years ago, is when they really started seeing it from the user-centric perspective. Mm-hmm. Now I was working through that experience, and after graduating, I worked as a user researcher. I went to California. I was working with SAP, it's a German company. I went back to Berlin. I was working with many startups and ended up doing a second master's in information systems. And this time it was very focused on statistics between the Faculty of Economics and Computer Science. And also I specialized in text mining and how to combine it with, they called opinion mining. So how can we, for example, people have problems with doing topic modeling and really recognizing issues to solve. And it was a great journey so far. my take, we even had a summer school back then with Cuba, so I was able to go back to Cuba this time as a teacher and kind of combine all my learning path and bring it back home, right? And see also how the different countries will teach. It was a great cultural experience. Um, After graduating, I worked with a company in Germany that does geospatial information systems, doing classical product analytics. And back then we were looking into going more into certain markets. So I was also learning about, and again, I don't know if you see it, but throughout my journey is always like new challenges and having to adapt and using the same techniques, but from a different perspective. Back then it was more, okay, we have new data, which is, geolocation, how can we use it, or how can we adapt the product from a quantitative perspective to adapt it to new markets. So that was very, very enriching and very interesting. And by then I was already doing my data science job, but applying more and more those techniques from user-centric design. And it was very, very enriching. We could talk a whole hour about that if you ask. But after that, I moved back to the US, this time to Miami. I wanted to give it a try. A year, 2 years, I thought back then. The first year, I was kind of, getting adapted and having to learn a new community or getting settling for the first time. And that's where the R ladies comes into play, because I started, while I was waiting for my papers and so on. I didn't know many people in Miami. So I decided to start going to all these meetups, see what communities were in place. Back in Miami is a very, very dynamic city with a lot of projects always going on, startups, people generally. And here in Miami could be sometimes challenging if you don't have a car, like if you're not in a cluster, like in universities and so on. It might be sometimes difficult to dwell into that tech community and to your peers. So that's what I did. I ended up going, there's a machine learning meetup in Miami for Lauderdale. There's the Miami data science meetup as well. And given my background, I specialized in using R. And Python, but more R, because I was, remember, the Faculty of Economics, and R has sometimes more like an academic or more from the statistical perspective. Right. And that was kind of in my mind, asking myself, like, why isn't nothing here in place? And on top of that, I had an experience where we went to a meetup here in Coral Gables. And I remember it was like 35 guys and a girl. Another girl. So we were 2 girls in total. And that was Carolina Arango back then.
Yes. Was one of the first ladies here actually trying to drive that forward. So it's funny how you met her as the only other lady there.
Correct. Yeah, get out there. And she's actually the ambassador of the Women in Data Science conference here in Miami. But yeah, so we were at the meetup, and after it was done, I kind of told her, listen, let's grab a coffee. Like, it's not normal. I want to get to know Miami. It's great. It's a very diverse place, and yet you still have those dynamics. So we took a coffee, and we were talking about, what could we do in terms of community, my background, her background, and I told her about the R. We started doing some research. We found the R Ladies, which is a global organization that has different chapters. I asked them about opening a chapter here in Miami, and they gave me fully support. They also have a code of conduct, and they had the backing that we needed back then. It was very helpful. And it all started through an experiment that we had in mind of if we would do a meetup only for women, would it be more likely to have 50-50 attendance than if we do like an open one? And that actually worked out perfect. So in the first meetup, we had 50-50. So that's how the community part started. It has been very enriching since then. Within now 3 years, and as you said, 1,700 participants, members. We had Hadley Wickham, Max Kuhn. The art community has supported us a lot. And yeah, and I'm still at Visa, working right now a lot with geospatial data. Again, that's why I brought it. So to all data scientists out there, sometimes you think that you're working something completely different. And in our range, it's called data science, but it goes to, it's a very, very wide field. So don't be afraid of specializing in something and maybe then having to change and do something completely different, because you can always apply it. So yeah, that would be a little bit about me.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a incredible journey. Thank you so much for sharing. And that's funny how you mentioned NLP, because that is really trendy right now, you know, and it's been around for so long. But I think there's some new, you know, products and tech to make it easier to apply. So I think that's, you know, it sounds like you were using it many years ago. So that's awesome to, you know, to hear. And also about our ladies too. I think, you know, it's great to have a little bit more diversity here for sure. So, and I remember then we found you to speak at the data science salon too at that time. You were just, I think you only been here for like maybe 18 months or something. So, but that was fun too. That was fun, and we can't wait to have you back too. And I think from here, I think it would be really great. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some trends that you're seeing in your field. You know, like I'm sure, you know, NLP is one of them. It's always kind of, you know, something that's being used, but maybe you could talk a little bit about other trends. I mean, I know that there's a lot of bias in data, especially in finance. And that's something that, you know, is always something that's really interesting to see what your thoughts are on something like that.
Well, I appreciate that question. And yes, so thank you so much for your support. You have been supporting our ladies. And, you know, when I got in touch with the Data Science Saloon, I've been hooked since then. It's a great opportunity, especially here in Miami, which, you know, we really need to foster that very diverse and dynamic tech community that we have here.
Especially now when people are like hot coming here, right? Like everybody is like, oh my God, Miami.
But you were the party, but you were there. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, in terms of trends, yes, that's sometimes it's hard, right? Because it's why you see more in the papers or people talking about it. I think it's a great point that you bring, and I've seen it over and over. When we talk about machine learning, we'll talk about data science at the end of statistics, and very often it's very older techniques that we're using right now with the higher computational power that we get. Now, of course, there's deep learning that they're using more. But in terms of trends itself that I'm seeing, and I'm very happy to see, and I'm glad that you brought it up, is all the topic of fair AI and ethical AI. When you say there's a lot of bias in finance, it's a good point, and it's very interesting. I would like to say it's not that there's bias in finance. The data is human. There's a great saying where they say humans are biased. The data is tracking humans. Therefore, the data is going to be biased. So the question is, and that's another whole argument, if should we go ahead and normalize the data and take that bias away? Once we take that bias away, we cannot counteract and make it a fair work. But I've seen a lot around that. I'm very happy to see work around that, either on the data collection, like at Google with the images and how to train like image recognition systems. Also from Google, they have this group called PAIR and data visualization. They've done a great job, like how to visualize bias in data, and they have this great paper on loans where you can actually, in a dynamic setting, interact with the data and really get a sense on the impact. That's very often what we're not impacted because we're from a certain group, so we're not mindful of that. Right. It's a lot about the mindfulness and the mindset of the developers and the people working around that technology. We had a couple months ago Professor Sophia Moja from the UCLA, and she's doing also academic work around that, and you have seen it in a global scale. So that's great to see. That's one of the trends. And of course, there's other trends like Like now we're working more with graphs and geospatial data. So it's more about, I see it as we're having more and more data every day. The question is not if we can process it or track it. We've got that there already. The question is now how to really get the insights and the intelligence out of it, be it by proper collection of data or annotation of data, tagging. There's now like synthetical data to create some simulations, to now NLP, like unstructured data, geospatial data more in the geographical perspective. And graphs. Graphs is great because you can see, and I worked before with ontologies and semantic web, where you can see maybe relationships that you wouldn't have gotten from a clustering. So that's very interesting to see, and I'm very happy about it.
Cool. No, those are some awesome trends. And yeah, like there's definitely a lot more graphs and visualizations, which is great because I think a lot, that's how you see, right, what's going on, the patterns that are really there. And tell me a little bit more about your work, speaking about graphs and things with code art.
Oh, code art. So yes, code art is this great organization in Miami, and they do programming for young girls. So
that's so cool.
Yes. And again, we're talking now about diversity in the tech space and where to start. I actually read that back in the 70s, women were more prone to work with computers because they were doing the different type of labor and they were taking care of those carts with the holes. And then at some point, media changed that paradigm and is targeting more boys for computer games and so on. So the whole paradigm shifted, and so now we have this great asymmetries in gender in the tech environment. So what they do is they do competitions and they encourage and foster girls on developing, be it a game or some visualization, some animation. I got in contact with them a couple of years ago where they were looking for judges. And they've been doing a great job, even especially last year in the pandemic. They kept the event, they did it on Zoom. I remember last year was actually on March. Like many events, they had to cancel it. It was right before the lockdown, and the team kept working on it. They did a great job into following up with the girls and keeping in touch with the judges. So this is another example where sometimes, yes, you don't have to be in the same field. I am not an animation expert, but yet we get there and then we tell them about how my career path was, how it is okay to be, or there are other women out there in the technical field, how, when you're developing a product, a tech product, be it, a model or a piece of code or an animation, how to proceed. And it's a great project. I encourage anyone to, look it up and support it. They're here in Miami. And I think the next competition is in September. I'll have to
cool. Yeah, we can share. Yeah. We'll share a link in the comments section for this, so people can check it out. Oh, that's awesome that you're supporting so many female things, which is amazing. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yes, there's Girls Who Code art, and I think there are other programs that are more towards young teenagers and children, early teenage
you have to start them early, right? You have to, because otherwise, like, we're not going to think about like the tech space. We're going to think about fashion and things like that, So, like,
I saw one project. It was very nice. I think it's called Jewel Bots. Without sounding creepy, but they encouraged girls to it was like an Arduino kit, and they could set up like their jewels with LEDs and so on. So I think it's just having
that's cool. Fun. Yeah, no, of course. Yeah. And it's definitely fun. I mean, it's changing the way like industries are running and everything. So I just think like people they have to understand that it's so impactful. But this was such a great conversation. Thank you so much again for
Thanks for having
joining.
me.
I'm gonna wrap it up and again give a little plug for Laura. See her at our event at Transform World on July 12th. So just coming up really soon here. And also again, if you're in Miami, we'll also gonna be supporting our ladies and doing more stuff and content together. So coming up. So yeah, so look for that. And yeah, thanks again. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you very much for attending. For our ladies, we'll have our next meetup July 20th. So
perfect. So we'll have to share that link as well. Yeah. So we'll have to go. Is it in person or is it in virtual?
We're actually looking into that of having like a hybrid event.
Cool.
Our Zoom channels are open. They have been open since last year, but we're actually looking into having like a hybrid. So if anyone is in Miami and just want to reconnect with the tech community, data science community, our community, just join us. It's not only women, it's women and men. It's just the name. It's just an inclusive space for data scientists and tech interested people that want to share projects and learn new stuff. So be welcome to join us either through Zoom or maybe in person. So I'm going to keep you
posted. Maybe I'll see you there.
Yeah, see you there.
All right. Okay, bye, guys.
All right, bye. Have a great day. Bye.